Okay, because they claim, and Warren said the same thing to Officer B.T. Coon when he spoke with him. They claim that Nolan told them, I'm going to hang back on this island and talk to Katie. You guys go ahead and I'll get back however I get back. Again, I'm paraphrasing. But guess what? We learned through Katie's sister that Katie said she has no knowledge of Nolan ever saying that. In fact, Katie said, Art, that Nolan told her, I got to get ready to head back to the boat because my friends are leaving soon. That don't sound like somebody who plans on staying, Art. Okay? According to her sister, Katie said Nolan told Katie, it's time for me to head back to the boat because my friends are going to be leaving soon. As far as I'm concerned, Art, Javon and Katie both threw us an alley-oop. Javon and Katie are throwing Sheriff Ledbetter of Jackson County an alley-oop because neither one of them are corroborating the story of Nolan's white friends on that boat. In fact, Javon said, this ain't adding up. Javon said, it's not like Nolan to say, you guys go ahead and leave me on this island and I'm just going to stay back to talk to this girl who I barely know. According to Javon, it don't make no sense. Javon ain't stupid, Art. That's his friend. He know damn well Nolan didn't tell them that he was going to stay back on that ship. And then Katie, I'm going to give a little bit of respect to Katie on this situation. Because as a white girl, Art, for her to come out and say that is not what happened, for her to come out and say that Nolan told me I got to get back to the boat because my friends are leaving, for her to say that, Art, that took a little bit of courage and honesty. That took a little bit of integrity. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to give her too much credit because she is trying to clear her name. What Katie is basically doing, Art, is she's saying, listen, y'all did whatever y'all did to Nolan. Who did Nolan tell Warren was his best friend? Who did Nolan ever tell Trayston was his best friend? I'm not going to question Javon, because he's a brother. And I do believe that there's a strong chance that they may have been best friends. And I say that not only because Javon is a brother, Art, but I also felt that Javon, through the investigation team and alley-oop, with some of the answers that he gave on TMZ. Some of Javon's answers, in my opinion, kind of made it clear to me he actually cared about Nolan. He actually cared about Nolan. I believe Javon actually cared about Nolan. And because of that, I'm willing to say that Javon may have actually been Nolan's best friend. I wish somebody would have asked Javon, Art, to your knowledge, has Nolan ever called Warren his best friend? Has Nolan ever called Trayston his best friend? To your knowledge, Javon, has Nolan ever told you that Warren and Trayston were best friends of his? Because, Art, I'm having a problem with this three best friend narrative. Okay? I used to be 18 years old. You might have one best friend. You may have two. Don't get me wrong. If you all hang in a pack, you could have three best friends. But according to Javon's own words, Art, he didn't really hang around with them other guys too much. That's what I allegedly thought I heard him say. He didn't hang around with them guys too much. So if you got 2 or 3 or 4 best friends, you guys normally travel as a group. Javon seemed like he kind of spent most of his time with Nolan alone, just the two of them, not with Trayston and Warren. Although he knew them, it didn't appear that he hung out with them on the regular. So how could they all then be best friends? It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's unlikely. So, according to Javon, Art, he saw Nolan at 3:40 on the island. According to Javon, what I heard him say to TMZ allegedly was that he had another friend who was involved in an altercation, and that he left Nolan at about 3:40 to go check on his buddy, because according to Javon, his buddy was on another ship, and the parents of whomever on this other ship were trying to get him off the island because he was crashing out. He never said who this friend was. He never exactly told us what happened. But he said, I left at 3:40 to go check on my friend on another boat because, quote unquote, well, these are not his words, I'm paraphrasing, he was kind of wilding out, crashing out, and he needed to help calm him down. I'm paraphrasing. He said when he got back, Nolan was nowhere to be found, and I'm paraphrasing. And Nolan's boat that he came on, Warren's boat, the so-called Big Daddy, the 22-foot Triton, had already left the scene. So according to Javon, I left Nolan at 3:40 to go deal with another situation. I came back, he was gone. According to Katie, the white girl who Nolan's white best friends are trying to use as an alibi in this situation,
going on with this whole situation.
You're not going to add me to the narrative. I'm not serving as nobody's alibi. I'm not helping nobody get out of this situation. You're not going to use me as a decoy, but I still appreciate Katie speaking up for Nolan Art because she didn't have to do it. Although she's trying to protect herself and stay out of the investigation, I appreciate Katie for letting the world know Nolan told me I got to head back to the boat because my friends are getting ready to leave. Now, according to Katie Art, she spoke to Nolan sometime between 3 and 4:30. Now, her window appears to be wider than everybody else's window. So Javon's window is much smaller. He said, I saw him at 3:40, went to deal with another situation. By the time I came back, they were gone. Katie said I spoke with him between 3 and 4:30. And I allege, Art, one of the reasons that Katie is making her window so wide is she trying to leave a little bit of wiggle room for Warren and them to get their story straight, allegedly.
And he's not lying about nothing that he's saying. Everything that is coming out this man's mouth, he's speaking the truth because we know exactly what they trying to do. They trying to make it to where Katie and Javon, they let everybody know this. While Bart and them trying to let everybody know, okay, we was doing this or we was doing that at that time and that time. Could y'all just give it up? Could y'all just let everybody know exactly what happened and let us know why this even went down with Nolan Wells, y'all? Like, for real. Like, everything that's coming out now, it all goes to show that they set Nolan Wells up.
I think Katie trying to leave a little bit of wiggle room for Warren and them to get their story straight, Art. Now, according to our sister Christine, and my heart goes out to Sister Christine, Nolan's mother. My heart deeply, deeply goes out to you, Queen. According to Christine, Art, she heard from a coach who ran into Nolan on the island as well. And according to the coach, he spoke to Nolan between 2:30 and 3:30.
Man, you see what the coach doing speaking to him between that time. Some is inconsistent and something is off about this whole case. I want to cover this case and I want everybody to know we're going to be giving our personal opinion and we're going to be giving the facts on what the evidence brings. I want y'all to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so that YouTube can recommend this video. Share this video on Facebook.
Work never stops. The work never stops.
Yes, indeed, man. Had to bring you back on. The people, they've been asking me to bring you back on for the longest, man. So it was only right to bring you back on. It's so much I want to talk to you about, though, man. It's so much to get into that I want to get your take on. Nolan Wells, how you feel about that situation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Nolan Wells. You know, when the case first broke, Art, I just kind of sat back, because I knew the YouTubian struggle streamers were going to run with it. I knew the white liberals on YouTube were going to run with it. I knew the white racists on YouTube were going to run with it, and everybody in between. It hurts my heart for Sister Christine, Nolan's mother, to have to see so many people using her son's name and crisis and tragedy for clickbait. And that's one of the biggest reasons, Art, I kind of stood back. It almost reminded me of the Freddie Gray police unaliving in Baltimore back during the Barack Obama era. When Freddie Gray lost his life to those police in Baltimore, everybody rushed to Baltimore. They did the same thing with Michael Brown in Ferguson, not because they necessarily cared about the tragedy, but because they wanted to benefit personally from it. And so I stayed away from Ferguson. I stayed away from Baltimore, and I stayed away from the Nolan Wells situation for a while because I didn't want to look like so many other people who just jumped in to have something to say, to use that young man's loss of life for clickbait and views. Now that it's been over a month since he lost his life, I think it's okay for me to speak now because everyone else has kind of given their opinion, their analysis, their synopsis, and their feeling on the situation. So I'm going to give mine. First of all, Nolan Wells, Javon, and I want Javon to hear this, and I want any other Black person who was on Devil Horns Island that day to hear this. And I want any Black person who was celebrating the 4th of July to hear this. No Black person, no Black freedman, no Black immigrant, no member of the Black race at all should have been celebrating July 4th, 2026. No one should have been celebrating America's 250th solar return. And why? Because our ancestors were still enslaved on July 4th, 1776. So why are we on White Devil Horns Island anyway, celebrating George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton and all these other white supremacists and slave masters? Why are we even celebrating them anyway? Nolan shouldn't have been out there. Javon shouldn't have been out there. No Black person should have been celebrating the 4th of July, period. We would be enslaved for almost another century after America got her independence. So what are we celebrating for? To celebrate the 4th of July as an African is to celebrate the enslavement of your ancestors and the freedom of your slave masters. It makes no sense. Now, with that being said, I'm not blaming Nolan in any way, shape, form, or fashion for his loss of life. I'm just simply saying he shouldn't have been out there. Now let's take a closer look at this, Art. According to what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and what I've read, Nolan, Warren, Wyatt, and Trayston left for Horn Island the morning of July 4th. According to Warren's own words that he offered during an interview with Officer B.T. Coon, that's Coon as in C-U-N-E, Coon as in K-H-E-W-N, Coon as in K-U-H-N, Coon as in C-O-N-N. So Warren did a sit down with Officer B.T. Coon. And as we all know, B.T. Coon is white YouTube's pet monkey. He's white YouTube's pet monkey. So Warren sat down for an interview with white YouTube's pet monkey. And he said that they left for Horns Island the morning of July the 4th, and that it was approximately 30 of them spread across 3 boats. Approximately 30 youth spread across 3 boats. They all went to Horn Island together. They arrived at approximately 11:30. So they left around 9-ish, 8, 9-ish, whatever the case may be. They left the morning of July 4th. They arrived on White Devil's Horn Island at about 11:30. So 3 boats, 30 youth, they went together. I'm not clear on whether the 3 boats came back together or not. That's another question that I have, Art. Did they come back together the same way they left together? Because I'm treating all 30 of those white youth and all 3 of those ships as crime scenes and as suspects. All 3 ships are potential crime scenes. All 3 boats are potential crime scenes, and all 30 youth are potential suspects. I don't know why Jackson County Sheriff Ledbetter or Jackson County District Attorney Mulrath, I don't know why they decided to separate the boat that Nolan was on, Warren's boat. I don't know why they separated that boat from the other 2 for purposes of investigation and analysis, because those 3 boats operated as a team. And since they went out there as a team, and it hasn't been made clear to me whether or not they came back together as a team, all 30 white youth and all 3 boats should have been part of this investigation, not just the 1 boat. That is my first big issue with this case. Who decided to separate the other 2 boats and the other 20 or so youth? I got a problem with that, Art, because according to the Cajun Navy, they have no GPS information on the other 2 boats, Art. They have no GPS information on the other 2 boats. Now let's get into this. According to Warren and Nolan's other so-called white friends, they decided to leave the island around 4:30. So they were roughly on White Devil's Horn Island from 11:30 to 4:30. That is about 5 hours. About 5 hours. Now, one question that has to be asked, Art, why did y'all leave so soon? Because they party on Horn Island all day long. Y'all didn't leave at sunset. Y'all didn't leave at sundown. Y'all left after only being there 5 hours. That's a little suspicious, Art. And I haven't heard anybody ask any of them, why did y'all decide to leave after only being there for 5 hours? Did y'all plan to only be on White Devil's Horn Island for 5 hours? Why did y'all leave at that time? But we'll deal with that later. So then let's listen to Javon, Nolan's other best friend. Now, another problem I got with this whole story, Art, is Nolan allegedly had too many best friends. I'm trying to find out, how does Nolan have so many best friends? And why did all of these so-called best friends leave their best friend on White Devil's Horn Island without his cell phone and keys? I'm trying to figure this out. So Javon claims he's Nolan's best friend. Warren claims he's Nolan's best friend. And Trayston allegedly claims that he's Warren's best friend. So did Warren have 3 best friends? Excuse me. Did Nolan have 3 best friends? Did Nolan have 13 best friends? Did Nolan have 30 best friends? Because if Javon is the best friend of Nolan, and if Warren is the best friend of Nolan, and if Trayston is the best friend of Nolan, exactly how many best friends did Nolan have? Are y'all making this up?
Welcome to the channel. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you're a fan of Nolan Wells. Now, the coach, he made a real bad mistake. And I want to let everybody know, I'm just now jumping on this topic and I'm just now covering this. But I want y'all to hear what they said that the dude did. And it kind of like shocked me, man. It kind of made me look at this as if something not right. Something seemed off. Something seemed strange. You know, like when you go outside and then you see it ain't nobody outside, but then it's quiet everywhere. I want y'all to know this sad what happened to him, but I want y'all to, in the meantime, drop the RIP Nolan Wells. I want y'all to hear what they said, man. Shout out to this content creator, Willie D.
Yeah, who is Bart? Bart is the alleged boyfriend of this girl named Katie. Oh,
And by him saying Katie, I would like to say
Nolan Wells case, the role of witnesses in the search for the truth. In any major investigation, witnesses often become one of the most important pieces of the puzzle. They are the people who can provide investigators with a timeline, describe what happened before and after an incident.
Bait, Tyndall says, means investigators have an added obstacle while hearing from witnesses.
So we have to make sure that we have a good, solid investigation, and we also want to make sure that witnesses that we're going to, that we're getting their impressions of what happened, not just based on what they see or hear on social media. So I think it has a real detrimental effect when people start particularly putting out misinformation on public venues and on the internet. And
Tyndall says that with the circulation of misinformation, he encourages people to direct their eyes to what's happening locally.
If you're trying to find that information, talk to the people that were on Island that day.
Explain relationships between individuals and help authorities understand events that may not have been captured through physical evidence. In the case of Nolan Wells, witness accounts have played a major role as investigators attempt to reconstruct the events surrounding his disappearance and death. However, witness testimony is only one part of a much larger investigation, and every statement must be carefully examined alongside forensic evidence, digital records, photographs, videos, and other information before investigators can determine what happened. The investigation into Nolan Wells drew significant public attention because of the circumstances surrounding his disappearance. As investigators began looking into the events leading up to his death, they spoke with individuals who had been present during the trip and others who may have had information about Nolan's movements, interactions, and final hours. These interviews became a critical part of establishing a timeline and understanding the environment surrounding the tragedy. Witnesses in cases like this often face intense public attention because people want immediate answers. In the age of social media, interviews, rumors, and partial information can spread rapidly, causing certain individuals to become the focus of public discussion before investigators have completed their work. Law enforcement officials, however, must follow a process that relies on evidence rather than online theories. A person being interviewed does not automatically mean they are a suspect, and a person being mentioned publicly does not mean investigators have reached a conclusion about their involvement. One individual who received significant attention was Bart Edmiston Jr., described publicly as a former teammate and friend of Nolan Wells. According to statements from his attorney and family, Bart cooperated with the investigators, provided information, and denied any involvement in Nolan's death. His representatives have stated that he voluntarily participated in the investigation and that online accusations against him have caused serious personal consequences. No public authority has announced that Bart committed a crime or that any statement he provided was false. Understanding witness statements requires recognizing that memories can be complicated. Investigators know that people who experience stressful situations may remember events differently. Factors such as fear, confusion, distance from an event, lighting conditions, distractions, and the passage of time can all influence how someone remembers what happened. A difference between two accounts does not automatically prove that someone is being dishonest. Instead, investigators look for patterns and compare statements against evidence that can independently confirm or challenge what witnesses say.
Last time I saw Nolan, I was walking to the boat. This was before the fight. Nolan was walking towards Wyatt's boat. I was walking in the opposite direction towards my boat. And not even 10 minutes after that is when I got into a fight.
4 o'clock, altercation had happened between one of my other friends. So I went and checked on him for about 20 minutes, 20 to 15 minutes. I came back, Nolan's boat and the people that he was with were gone.
So the last time I personally laid eyes on Nolan was at like 3 o'clock. We left at 4:30. Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. But she also mentioned that the last time she saw Nolan was when my buddy was yelling at him to get on the boat.
But the last time I saw Nolan.
In a case involving multiple people, investigators typically build a timeline by comparing each person's account. They examine questions such as, where was each person located? What time did certain events occur? Who communicated with whom? What actions happened before and after the incident? Were there photographs, videos, phone records, or other forms of documentation that support parts of the testimony? These questions help investigators separate confirmed facts from assumptions. Witnesses may also provide information that seems small but becomes important later. A conversation, a change in someone's behavior, a location detail, or an observation that initially appears insignificant can become meaningful when combined with other evidence. Investigators often collect large amounts of information before determining which details are important to the final explanation of events. The public discussion surrounding the Nolan Wells case also demonstrates the challenges of investigating cases in a digital era. Social media allows information to spread quickly, but it also creates the possibility of misinformation. Online communities often attempt to solve cases by analyzing interviews, photographs, and rumors. While public interest can sometimes bring forward helpful information, speculation can also unfairly affect people who have not been accused or charged with any crime. For families seeking answers, witness cooperation can be extremely important. Investigators rely on people coming forward with information, even if they believe certain details may not matter. A small piece of information from one witness may help confirm another person's account or provide investigators with a new direction. That is why law enforcement agencies often encourage anyone with relevant information, photographs, videos, or memories of an event to contact investigators. At the same time, witnesses have legal rights and responsibilities. They are expected to provide truthful information, but they are also entitled to be treated fairly while an investigation is ongoing. Being interviewed by police does not mean someone is guilty, and being discussed online does not replace evidence. Investigators must determine facts through a careful process that can take time. The Nolan Wells investigation highlights the complicated role witnesses play in criminal investigations. They can provide important pieces of information, but their statements must be evaluated carefully. The strongest investigations are built by combining witness accounts with scientific evidence and objective facts. A complete understanding of what happened requires patience and a commitment to evidence rather than assumptions. As the investigation continues, witness statements will remain an important part of the effort to understand Nolan Wells' final moments and answer the questions surrounding his death. The ultimate goal of investigators, the Wells family, and everyone seeking answers is the same: to determine the truth based on reliable evidence. Until all evidence has been reviewed and official conclusions are reached, separating confirmed facts from speculation remains essential.
Oh my God!
Nolan's friend's mom just came out speaking on something that was odd with the Snapchat location her son and Nolan shared. This is crazy. Listen to this.
Now, here's the weird thing to me. This is what stands out to me the most. When we found out that Nolan was missing, my son immediately snapped him, and then Christine messaged him back and said, "I have Nolan's phone now." This was at 12:53, according to the screenshot that I have. This was at 1:53 in the morning. Okay. So he, for whatever reason, I don't know if he was gonna. I don't know why he took the screenshot. To be honest with you, I think it was maybe even a God thing. But he took a screenshot of Nolan's location on Snapchat because they shared locations with each other, and on that screenshot, it shows Nolan basically in the middle of the Gulf, like right off of Horn Island. It said that he had been at that location for 13 hours, which would make sense if you just back up that timeline. That would make sense around the time that they would have arrived at the island. His location didn't change. It said that he was last active an hour prior to that. And my son, I think it said it was like 53 minutes that 53 minutes prior to that my son had sent him a snap.
Leaked to us. And so we have this information available. As you can see it, this has been verified. I saw it with my own eyes. And this is a message from Ashley Cole to Nolan's mother. And it says, Christine, this is Ashley Cole. If or when you ever want to talk to me, this is my number. This was on July the 7th.
Correct.
Now, the question is, if you want to know what happened to your son and you think, and we got this leaked to us, and so we have this information available. As you can see it, this has been very...
The death of Nolan Wells remains the subject of an active investigation, and one of the most closely examined pieces of evidence has been the independent autopsy commissioned by his family. According to the preliminary report prepared by forensic pathologist Dr. Roger Mitchell, the cause and manner of death were both classified as undetermined pending further investigation. That conclusion does not establish that Nolan drowned, nor does it conclude that he was the victim of a homicide. Instead, it reflects that the available forensic evidence was insufficient to reach a definitive medical conclusion. The report explains that the examination was significantly limited because Nolan's body had undergone advanced decomposition before the independent autopsy could be performed, making it more difficult to evaluate certain injuries or findings that might otherwise have been visible. During the examination, Dr. Mitchell reported that he found no fractures of the skull, ribs, pelvis, arms, legs, or other bones that were examined, and no deep tissue injuries that would clearly indicate major blunt force trauma. Investigators also noted that the skin and soft tissues had deteriorated to a degree that prevented a complete assessment of potential bruising or superficial injuries. One finding that drew considerable attention was an area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissue over the back of Nolan's head near the occipital region. However, the pathologist emphasized that the cause of this discoloration was unclear, as there were no associated skull fractures or scalp lacerations that could conclusively identify as trauma.